everybody, and welcome back to the show. After receiving about 5 requests a day from all you Texas folks out there to have a breakdown of Montecristo, I decided to do it, help you guys out a little bit, get prepared for that audition. If you're not familiar with the piece, it comes from a book called Technique Through Music by Mark Ford. And this book was really written to kind of provide a set of literature that's in between the super easy stuff and the super crazy stuff that exists in marimba literature. There's like a giant gap, or at least there used to be a giant gap in which you're playing really easy stuff like C refractions and then jumping into the stout etudes, and it's like, whoa, oh my God. So he's like, you know what, we need more stuff that's kind of in the middle because students are rushing so fast, they're not really developing good technique. And that's where this book came out of. So let me give you just a brief performance of the piece of where my current interpretation is, and then we'll break it down. All right, so let's break it down. The number one thing I've received in emails is about how the 7/8 patterns are kind of hard to play. So if you haven't played 7/8 before, it'd be a good idea to get some sticks and a pad and just acquaint yourself with the basic 7/8 figure. The one used in this piece is a grouping of 2, a grouping of 2, and then a grouping of 3. So that'd be a great thing to get on the practice pad and just try it out with your right and left hand. You can also play it left hand lead. Okay, and when you count this, you can either say 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So practicing on a pad, excellent way to learn how to play in 7/8. Definitely have a metronome going as well to kind of keep yourself honest. The next kind of tricky rhythmic motif in the piece is actually the quarter note triplet, because it's probably one of the most wrongly performed rhythms in beginning to intermediate percussion. Okay, so this is a quarter note triplet. This is not a quarter note triplet. Okay, it's a grouping, it's a 16th note pattern. Okay, in a real quarter note triplet, you're playing every other beat of a triplet, of an 8th note triplet, right? So if you play 4 regular triplets and then drop your left hand, you're playing quarter note triplets, like so. This rhythm over here, you're playing 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a. So it's 3, 3, and then 2. And it kind of gives it like a little bit of a, like an off shuffle kind of feel to it. So the big difference is that when you're playing a quarter note triplet, all the notes are equally spaced. But when you're playing the 16th note pattern, they're not all evenly spaced. And when you play the quarter note triplet here, you have to kind of be aware of that. So for example, here's the correct way to play the quarter note triplet pattern. And here's incorrectly playing it as 16th notes. So the difference is subtle, but it's still there. So be careful with that. So once you get out a pad and some sticks and a metronome, and you get the basic rhythms away from the keyboard, it's time to start putting them on the keyboard. And I'll let you in on a really great secret that Steve Ballard taught me when I was in the Crossman. And that is, you want to practice one hand at a time on anything that's remotely complicated. For example, the opening theme, when both hand comes in, is something like this. Okay, so what we're going to do when we're learning this is just play one hand at a time. So here's the right hand. And then once we have that really down, then we play just the left, which is hard because it's syncopated. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you can count when you play, so we'll try that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then when you have that down, you put them both together. And then it should start coming together for you. I also highly recommend using a metronome, which is kind of difficult on this piece because it's in 7/8. And if it was just 7/8, you can kind of cheat and put your metronome in 7/4. But it does mix up a lot of time signatures. So if you don't have a Dr. Beat laying around, there's a really great app for your iPod or iPhone you can get called Tempo. I think they've renamed it Tempo Advanced now or something, but it's basically like a Dr. Beat but $3, which is really great. And you can program the entire piece in the thing if you wanted to and have a metronome going the whole time. But if you can't do that, I would take your regular metronome and jack it as high as it'll go and just count those beats as eighth notes, and that'll help you kind of practice these. Aside from playing one hand at a time, I really recommend that you go really, really slow. Slow enough that you can count and play at the same time, because some of these rhythms are a little tricky. For example, in the first video I did, I actually incorrectly interpreted going from bar 3 to bar 4, because I just had my metronome clicking and I wasn't really paying attention. So this is how I did it in the first video. But going from 7/8 to 4/4, this note up here should come immediately after this note. So the correct way is like this. And I just really wasn't paying attention. So this piece has a lot of kind of tricky moments like that where you want to make sure that you're counting correctly so that you don't accidentally misinterpret a rhythm. All right, so the most hard part about this piece for me is maintaining a good sound quality regardless of all the acrobatics that are going on. For example, when your hands start playing together, your right hand's jamming up here, your left hand's jamming down here, but then you get to this point where the two are crossing each other. And when you do that, you kind of have to shift your mouths a little bit, and you'll see me in the video, I'll kind of move them in and out just to make that cross happen. But something happens here. When you start doing that, you're not going to be able to play in the center of the bars. You're going to have to be a little off center, which is fine, except if you were playing in the center up here, and now you're playing in the off center down here, you're going to have mismatched sound quality. For example, here's the center of these bars and the center of these bars. Totally matches, but you're not going to be able to do that. So what might happen is you may be in the center of these and then off center here, and here's what that sounds like. So it's kind of a subtle thing, but the sound goes from like to being more like just a little bit more shrill, a little bit more articulate when you get off center. And that's going to be kind of noticeable when you have a whole lot of applicants playing the same piece. It's going to be noticeable to tell the ones who keep a consistent sound and the ones who don't. So a good way to practice that is I would just say be off center up here the whole time. So when you're forced to do it down here, nothing changes. And that would sound like this. So now they match. It's not quite as dark and beautiful as playing in the center, but it's going to be what you need to do, at least for that particular phrase. All right, the next hardest part is when your right hand is walking the melody of the G minor scale, but mallet 3 is staying on this G. And this sounds something like this. So not only is it hard to maintain the melody, but your right hand is going from the second to a third. And If you're not really, really good with your double vertical technique, that's gonna be really difficult for you. So as we talked about in our last video, when you go to this outside mallet on an accidental, you don't wanna bring your elbow all the way up here. And that's gonna be the tendency. Your tendency is gonna bring the elbow up because we just, that's how we're used to learning how to play these things. But that's really not the most efficient thing to do. So if you go to that accidental, instead of doing this with your elbow, just turn your hand over and keep your elbow low. Your elbow will still need to come out just a little bit, but it won't have to shoot all the way up here to get that interval. So that'll look like this. Okay, and if you find yourself doing this, just go ahead and get in that position and then rotate your hand down and just play a bunch down here. That'll allow you to get used to the feeling, so when you have to do this really quickly, you'll be able to keep your elbow down and have much, much higher accuracy and be able to voice the melody a lot better. The last part that's kind of difficult from a sound quality perspective is when your left hand is going from this D to the D sharp. And your right hand is just kind of doing all kinds of crazy stuff at the same time. And if you watch my last video, I actually didn't do a very good job of that, and I kind of had something that sounded like this. So it's just a little bit too far into the bar, closer to that node, and the sound qualities didn't match. So that's another place, because you're focusing so much on all this that it's easy to let that go. But that's the baseline. It's one of the most important parts. So you don't want to do that. You want to make sure the sound quality matches. And if you need to have somebody just like put a stick here so you can only play on the edge, or videotape yourself from the side so you can check that out, feel free to do so. I think it'll really help you maintain a really good baseline in that section. As always, when you're in an audition situation, almost everyone's going to be able to walk into the room and be able to play the piece. But what's really going to make it individual to you is, the musicality and the musical decisions that you put into it. You don't always play exactly what's on the page. Sometimes you want to add a little crescendo or add a little bit of a retard at the end of a phrase to just make it just a little bit more musical and to put a little bit of self-expression in there. So if you really want to differentiate yourself from the rest of the crowd, you're going to have to figure out, how do you feel this piece? What's the interpretation that you want to do? Now, my earlier performance with Stevens grip and with the Stevens mallets was kind of like a more dark and mysterious version of this piece, where the dynamic range is really low, typical of the Stevens fashion. And I used like kind of softer mallets, and everything was kind of like subdued and dark. So that was my interpretation there. I'm going to try another one for you. I'm going to use Burton grip. This is a really good piece to play Burton grip with. And we're going to use mallets that are a little bit heavier, a little bit harder. These are the Nebojsa Zivkovic mallets, NJZ3. Really great for awesome loud playing for Burton grip. So I'm going to play just a little bit more of a fiery interpretation. I'm going to take a little bit faster, a little bit louder, add some more intense dynamic contrast. I'll probably miss a few notes because I really haven't practiced it with Burton grip, but I just want to give you an idea of another way that you could possibly interpret this one. Because you don't have to do what I'm doing. You can do whatever you want. You need to make it yours. So here's round 2 with the Burton grip. So I hope you enjoyed that interpretation. Now, if I could give you one final like kind of word of caution about your interpretation, is that you don't want to go too fast. Okay, you don't want to go too fast. This piece is really burnable. You know, like if you have a little bit of drum chord chops, I mean, you can really rip this piece. But when you do so, it kind of loses its groove. You know, it sounds pretty cool for the first few bars, but then when you get into it, it's just like ga 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 ga. It just kind of hammers you in the face the whole time. And then when you get to my favorite part of the piece, it's just too rushed. You know, and sorry, my favorite part of the piece is when you're doing this. So if you take that really fast, it just loses all its groove and all of that nice relaxed chill feel, and it just gets kind of ridiculous. So I don't know, it doesn't have quite the emotional value for me when it goes that fast. All right, everybody, we have a couple more things. First of all, I just moved, so I know I haven't put a whole lot of videos out in the last 6 months because I moved to a new city, got a new job. I moved from high school to middle school, so I'm going to be teaching middle school band, which is my absolute favorite. It's going to be a lot of fun. So new city, new job, new house, just got the studio set back up. But as you can see, it's not really that decorated. And if you notice, 2 houses ago, I had lots of decorations back here. I think I had like video game boxes of like games I like or something. So I needed to decorate this place, and any input you guys have would be really appreciated. Do you want to see the return of the video games? Do you want like posters of Katy Perry? I mean, I don't know, like whatever. Just give me some ideas of ways that some stuff you'd like to see in the background of these videos. And if you like it blank, we can leave it blank, whatever. So put that in the comment section below. Also, I hope to do a video soon about more specific ways that you can mentally prepare for an audition. And I just have like a lot of just thoughts in general on how to audition and do well, especially on the state level when things get really, really picky and really intense. So look for that soon. And as a bonus treat going out, I will completely destroy this piece of music. Sorry, Mark Ford. I'm going to just play it as fast as I possibly can to show you why you shouldn't do it, to show you how bad it sounds when you play this piece at like 200 beats per minute. So please don't do this. Don't do the following, all right? So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Oh, don't do that. Just don't do that.